these web for us to celebrate the 100 years of the JCC. This is 1921 to 2021. We're celebrating 100 years, and this is presented by Neil and Jane Golub. This is the third series of our history series, which is the Schenectady JCC from 1989 to present. So, it covers quite a bit of time. So we have some terrific panelists here. And I will quickly introduce them, and then we'll get off and running. And I appreciate everyone for joining us. And as you may have just seen, we are recording this evening's presentation for folks who may want to watch it later. You can tell folks that this was on. So we want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to see this. So our terrific panelists. We have 4 panelists, I believe, who are all here. Our former executive director, Alex Halenstein, JCC past president of the board of directors, Michelle Osterlich, a JCC past president and current trustee of board of directors, Neil Packer, and an ECE parent, former employee, ×2 ECE parent, Rachel Mandel. And myself, as Andy said, it's kind of interesting that, this time period that we're focusing on tonight is 1989 to present. My parents became members at the JCC and still are members in 1988. I went to the JCC growing up. I went all the way up through teen camp, did the after school program. I worked as the CIT. I worked at the summer camp. I ended up meeting my wife there, who was ended up being the summer camp director. And then our 2 children now go to the JCC. So it's kind of strange how, my life has kind of involved the JCC for almost this entire period. But again, we have terrific panelists, group of panelists here. Our first panelist is Alex Halenstein, who was the executive director of the JCC from 1977 to 2010, which was a large portion of time. He currently serves on the Film and Finance Committee, and helped move the JCC forward, the construction of the family park, the development of the after-school programs, and the kids time programs, and has been involved with the JCC still to this day, and going back all the way from 1977. Rachel Mandel, one of our panelists, started as a preschooler at the JCC, was a CIT, summer camp counselor, along with myself, a unit head for Camp Havarim, a division leader, the assistant camp director, assistant youth director for Camp ASEP and the teen program, and worked at the JCC for 13 years. And her 2 daughters, Maya and Mari, both go to the ECE program now. One of our other panelists, Michelle Osterlich, has been, as I said, a past she actually, in her comments to me, mentioned that at her first board meeting was when Alex Halenstein made the announcement that he was retiring. So she's been, she's the president of the board of directors from 2014 to 2016, was a recipient, along with her husband, Howard Schlossberg, of the Robert J. Ludwig Community Service Award, is a trustee on the board of directors, has been part of this 100th anniversary planning group. And in her time, she's been part of 2 strategic plans, 2 bylaw revisions, helped build the Teva playground. So she's been heavily involved with the JCC. And our final panelist, certainly not last, but certainly not least, Neil Packer, who is chairman of the board at Hill and Marks, was the 2012 JCC Individual Community Service Award, along with his wife, Andrea Packer. Was a 2017 Fulton Montgomery Community College Distinguished Alumni Award. It has been heavily involved with the Jewish Federation of Northeastern New York, is a past president of the Schenectady Jewish Community Center Board of Directors, and passionate and committed to maintaining the vitally important services that the JCC provides. Along with that, obviously, he's actively involved with the community. Along with his wife, Andrea, made donations to projects in the arts and education and health and communities around the Capital District, including Proctor's and the Schenectady Jewish Community Center. And Hill and Marks has been very philanthropic over its many, many years, with organizations like Proctor's, the Ronald McDonald House, Saratoga Performing Arts Center. So those are our four panelists, and I guess I would just open it up to each of them to say hello, and say hello to everyone listening, and then we'll get it kind of off and running with some questions. So I don't know if we want to start with Alex.
You're on mute, Alex. Alex, you just need to unmute.
Technology, Alex.
So as saying is, if you're reading my lips, until I saw Rachel on Zoom, I didn't realize who she was. It's funny, I never put the name together. Rachel, I remember when you were in preschool. Not so long ago, actually, at least in my life, it's not so long ago. And Neil, I remember how we met, same way, preschool. Neil had a daughter who was ready to go to preschool. He had an uncle who had been very active in the center. I think Roger probably was on the board at the time, but had been Harvey had been the health and education director. In the old building, I don't know if he made it to the new building. He was a teacher at middle school teacher. Right. And he convinced Neil that he should explore the center and maybe even move from Amsterdam. You were living in Amsterdam?
Glenville,
right. Okay.
Glenville,
right. And have your daughter at the JCC.
Right.
And Michelle, I guess I know Michelle better through her mother than I know Michelle. Michelle I played bridge, maybe once with your mom, but usually against your mother, Fridays and other days of the week. And she was Michelle's certainly one of the new assets to the JCC, and I don't know where the center would be without her and her husband. And so, I guess since this starts in 1989, and 1989 was the year we opened the family park. Is that correct, Andy? Or was that 88?
It was right.
89.
Yeah.
89.
88, I think 89. Was
We opened in 89. And I want to recognize something that Eric Kernes did, both for the JCC, both when we built the family park and when we did the expansion in 2000. Eric insisted that any contractor who bid the jobs must have a performance bond, must present a performance bond. And they all said, we don't need a performance bond. We just have to build it into our quote, we don't need it. And Eric was insistent, and the board of directors and board of trustees said, we're gonna agree with Eric, you gotta have it. And in both cases, it not only saved the JCC, but actually probably produced a lot of dollars for the JCC because both contractors went bankrupt. And in both cases, we needed to find someone else to do it. And we had an insurance company who filled the total role, filled the total gap. There was no legal issues. They just had to do it. And if I recall correctly, when we were building the addition to the center in 99, I think I got the announcement, and I actually got it from a newspaper reporter who called me the morning, and I think it was 9/11, that the builder had gone bankrupt and was off the job. I knew something was strange when I drove into the center that morning, but I didn't know that he had left. I do know, though, that he insisted we pay him some money 2 days before. Remember, Eric?
Yep. We paid him.
He took the money and he ran to Florida.
Yes.
They're trying to do the family park. Eric.
The one thing that I have been thinking about this evening is that for I came to the center in 76 as the assistant director of the Federation, or then community council in the JCC. In 77, I became the JCC director. Was the day in and day out struggle for the first 13 years that I was there was bills and money. How to make the payroll, how to meet bill. And it was the development of the family park that really got us over the hurdle. It brought a lot of people to the center that had either left or hadn't been there. It tied in nicely with a local swim club closing, which we didn't know it was going to happen, but apropos it did just before. Ellen, you remember what swim club that was?
Woodland Club.
No,
No, Idlewood.
Idlewood, that's right.
Idlewood. Idlewood.
Which was on the corner of, like, behind the McDonald's on Route 7. It was up on the hill there. And they closed that year, and a lot of the people came to the center. They might have come anyway, but that really probably.
Well, that was the impetus to build the club, because they weren't doing so well.
We took a lot of their members.
What do you say, Eric?
We
We
brought
took
in
a
a
lot
lot of
of their
members
members.
that way.
Yeah, we did. People thought we were a little nuts, though. You know, I remember JWB, later JCC Association, saying, Schenectady, New York, you hardly have a summer. Why are you putting all this money into it?
We were all adamant that needed to be done.
Well,
in
the
order
one person
to-
that became adamant that it needed to be done, and it followed my meeting with him and his wife in Sarasota, was Bill Golub. And Bill, when he came back from Florida that year, met with us and offered us $400,000 as a matching gift if we could raise $400,000. It turned out we needed more than that, and we raised considerably more than that. But it was his generosity that got us to doing it. So I don't want to say, I'll say more later, but at this point I'd like to pause and let other people chime in.
Yeah, and I don't want to jump in, but I did forget to mention that we are doing this program in memory of Len Saltzman, who passed away last month on October the 13th, who was a past president in the late 90s, and was also part of that, some of that expansion project.
It certainly was. Yeah.
Some of you folks knew him quite well. Alex, dovetailing kind of into the expansion to the family park, the kids program, the kids time program, the ASEP program, and summer camp, which has become obviously such a big part of the center. Rachel, I don't know if you want to talk about, we kind of grew up going to after school, going to the center. Just your experience, I guess, first, remembering back to a child's, going through that program, and then, now you have two children in the early childhood program.
I don't remember too much of the actual preschool program because I was so young, of course. But what stands out most is the old bingo room, which ironically now is infants, where one of my daughters is. So I remember, I think I was working the bingo room and the popcorn machine. But I also remember the room overlooking the gym and being in after school and hoping I could catch a glimpse of my grandfather, who would be going for a schwitz in the afternoon. So he'd stop outside the door and on his way down those stairs in the middle. So it was always kind of a family affair for us. Going through the school, heading into kids time, I went to Birchwood Kids Time. Rosendale, I think, had come and gone a couple times throughout the years as well. And then after that, of course, summer camp, which is still near and dear to my heart. I didn't really realize how much I enjoyed it until my daughter went this past summer for the first year. And I was reminded many times that I don't work at camp. I am not in charge of Maccabi games, and I do not need to put this much thought into it.
Lost your.
Yeah. Michelle, you joined the center. I think after.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I was gonna be-
Sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think after 2 years, I was going to be 2 years.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know if Rachel knows that her sound was lost.
I'll send her a
Yeah,
note.
we lost you for a sec there, Rachel.
I was rambling. I just said that there was no really doubt in my mind that my daughters were going to go to the JCC. It's familiar. It's a second home. Seeing the grounds and the building grow from what it was to what it has become is phenomenal. And I look forward to, growing old and seeing what we do next. So
It's funny, before we came on, Alex's daughter, Aviva Halenstein, who's also on, asked me about my experience at camp, because I went to camp, starting from, I think, kindergarten all the way up through teen camp, and then became a CIT. And to Rachel's point, my daughter also was involved in camp for the first time this past summer, and it was quite an experience to to see kind of things from the other perspective as a parent, and not being the counselor or the child. But I have very fond memories of camp, overnights in the woods, eating lunch every day down in the woods. So I mean, it's still some of the greatest memories of my childhood growing up. And like Rachel said, I mean, it's just great to see our kids getting to start to experience that as well. I guess that means we're getting old. Michelle, you came, talk about your involvement, with the center in your various, different roles, and also, the work, kind of that it takes to make some progress on some of these things, some of the things that, bylaw, the revisions and that sort of thing that, kind of maybe go on behind the scenes that are done at the board of directors level, and all those, type of things that have gone on over the, the years that you've been involved.
But I do have to say first is that by the time I got on the scene 15 years ago, so much had been done to the campus. So everything that I was ever involved with, by the time I got there, it was mostly renovations, but the structures were there because of all the work everybody else had done. And I love hearing the stories of you guys growing up there, and Aviva's and Andy Katz, and it's just amazing the generations that have really grown up there and come back. It's awesome. And so that's kind of what it drew me in. When we moved here, our first daughter was a year old, and I called frantically because I'd moved from Philly thinking, oh my gosh, I'm never gonna get a spot in the JCC daycare. And Kim Cohen met me at the door and calmed me down. She was saying, no, it's okay. We'll find a spot. It's all right. And of course, Ellen Carpenter welcomed us with open arms, and a friend, Heather Rockwood, and I met, and we became PTO chair. It's just a story that's been told again and again. And of course, Sharon Cutler then called to see if I would join the board, and I joined the board, and I got to meet some really incredible people. I mean, I was a stay-at-home mom, put into a room with the likes of Mark Baskin and Dave Eisner and Eric, who's on the call, and Eli Taub of blessed memory, Sonia Rubenstein. At our first meeting, at one of my first meetings, I spoke up, and she had this sort of gruff but very dogmatic tone about her. So she would go, that's right. She would just join in and support new board members whenever we spoke. It was great. And Harlan Harrison. And so back then there were trustees that were still very involved. And I was very lucky to have met people that have even moved away. I'm thinking of Ellen Zirin and just a lot of really impressive folks. And it was fun. It was a really fun time. So all of those, the sort of behind the scenes, not frontward facing, not campus involved changes that happened with Jewish visioning and bylaws reviews. When you get, it's, the old adage, 2 Jews in a room, 3 opinions. And it was always lively, but when every person spoke, it came from such a place of love. And the passion was because every single person wanted what was best for not just the facility itself, but for the entire Jewish community. Everything we did was loaded with making sure that things would be around for, your kids' generations. And it was very obvious that that's, I think, where when we talked about change, it was hard. You know, when we made some change, there were growing pains each step of the way, but it was all because we just wanted to make sure that the JCC would be there for the next generation and the generation after. It was pretty awesome. And I loved a lot of the events, you know, the adult events, like even the fundraisers, the summer soiree. You know, Alex's retirement party kicked off the galas, the annual galas every year. And yes, I have forgiven Alex for retiring. It took me a long time, but I got there eventually. And like, we did a bunch of summers where there were events at the family pool that were for adults and on the classier side of things. It was when I joined the board, Vent Fitness had just opened up. So we had taken a hit financially in losing gym members, people that had joined the JCC for gym memberships. And it did mean focusing a lot more on like ECE and revitalizing the gym itself and redoing some membership structures and stuff like that. We did a Jewish visioning process to talk about hours of opening and holiday openings and stuff like that. There were challenges for sure. And transition was hard after Alex left. But like I said, I think bringing that many people with that much passion and opinions really got us to a better place.
Thanks, Michelle. One thing that, certainly all of our panelists and a lot of people I see here in the room have in common is, their, philanthropic ways and, giving back and serving on boards and, that sort of thing. And certainly, our last panelist fits that description. Neil, I just want to open it up to you and, how the JCC, what it means to, what the center means to you, but also the services that are, that go on at the center. Why are they so important to your family, you, your wife, Andrea, and now even your son, Jason, as well?
So I just want to rehash some of the history that my mother worked for the center from approximately 1987 until she was there approximately 30 years, working in the daycare portion of it. And it was Alex that I suggested for Alex to hire her and brought her on, and she loved it and they loved her. They called her Bevy Wevy, I guess. So she had a fantastic time.
Was also one of my teachers.
Oh, really?
Was one of my teachers.
We still talk about Bevy Webby to this day.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So, she just loved it. And then as she got older, they wanted her to come in and, if it was a little snowstorm or whatever, somebody would come over to her apartment and pick her up and brought her to the center because she wouldn't drive. But she just loved it. The other thing that I was very brings back some memories is working with Bob Ludwig and Ernie Kahn, fundraising for the outdoor facility and for the addition for the center. They were very, very hard workers, and they were absolutely fantastic people to work with. The person that really mentored me as a board member was Max Hershkowitz. And when I was president, Max was an attorney at the time, and he was very intimidating. But at the end of the meeting, he would come to me and put his arm around me and said, great meeting. But and he was just absolutely a fantastic guy to work with, and mentored me in how to run a meeting and to be with how to conduct myself in a meeting. So those are the people. And then working with Alex was just a pleasure. he was absolutely fantastic to work with, very congenial. We worked together all the time, and he was just a great guy. I met, and Alex alluded to, I met him when my daughter was going to daycare. And I think she was about 3 or 4 years old. And it was just a great pleasure to watch the center grow and thrive. I mean, we had some issues with the building, and I was on the personnel committee, I was on the house committee, I was on the finance committee, and we just got through it. We did it, and we just, with good, hardworking people, we got through it, and it was good stuff.
Thanks, Neil.
Sure.
So I guess from here, I mean, we obviously, this is such a large, portion of time. I guess I'll throw it back to Alex. You had mentioned, some of the changes in the expansions kind of being, making them financially, they had to, kind of occur to the expansion and stuff. But what was maybe the genesis of of the expansion and I remember when the building came in and you walk in and then the teen lounge was right there and you'd have to go to the right to go to the main office, and now obviously the building looks completely different, and the creation of the family park obviously made the campus tremendously different. And even since then, the additions of the playgrounds on the side of the building and the renovation of the playground in the back of the building. So there's been a lot of renovations, but kind of maybe take us back to the early on here, the genesis of kind of, and you started to in your opening there, but the extension and the creation of the family park, and where did those kind of ideas come from, and how did that kind of play out?
Well, I'm not sure. In my mind, I think I've taken credit for the family park, but I'm sure in Neil's mind, there was other people that had the idea as well. But that's an ego thing, and I'm not worried about that. It's interesting about some of the other programs that started. The ASEP program, the after school program, started, 1978. Ellen Blake, who some of you may know, came into my office and said, we had a program at Craig School and we can't have it anymore. Why can't the center do an after school program? And I said, well, we have after school activities. And she said, but we need a program for working parents, not just the parents to bring the kids to a swim lesson or an art class or a gym class, but a place where they can go right after school and be there till they're picked up. And the program started that year with about 30 kids. It was never occurred. As far as I know, we were the first agency in the Capital District. I know we were the first JCC to start an after-school program like that, basically after-school childcare. And the daycare program, although we had a nursery school, long before I came to the center, actually got pushed or prompted by Eric and Ellen Kernes. Ellen was teacher and her kids were getting ready to go to early childhood programs, and early childhood by itself wasn't sufficient. And what we did is we started a program that wasn't truly daycare. It was kind of a wraparound program to nursery school. And that's how the daycare program started. And the Kids Time program, which started because the school, there had been a program like that in Van Antwerp School, but Van Antwerp was reopening it, had been mothballed, and then was reopening as a middle school, and all the programs had to leave. And they needed a place to have such a program. And actually the school district put out a proposal and said, who wants to do it? And the Y bid on it and we bid on it. And because I think we had a history with the after school program and we were known to the school district, and we're also willing to pay them rent, which the Y was not. We got the Kids Time program, and that program, along with the Family Park and some of our other programs, were, I hate to say it like this because we're supposed to be a not-for-profit and the center is a not-for-profit, but we're kind of the cash cows to help the program to grow, the center to grow, to develop other programs that it probably couldn't develop without some spin-off dollars. Also allowed the center to function without much fundraising. Center is, since I left, has started doing some really good fundraising activities other than capital campaigns. But in my years there, fundraising efforts were minimal.
Alex, how about the bingo and the golf and tennis?
Well, golf and tennis, yes. Bingo really never made a lot of money, but kept me from watching Seinfeld for many, many years. So it's getting to watch it all in reruns now.
How about the smoking room and the non-smoking room?
Oh God. And the non-smoking room was the kindergarten room that Rachel alluded to, also called the Boy Scout room and room 4 and many other things.
I think it still smells like the smoking room.
No, it was the non-smoking room.
No, it was the comfort. The other room was the big room was the
big room, the
Auditorium.
Yeah,
Oh,
auditorium
God.
was a smoking room.
Had to go home and take a bath. It was terrible.
Oh my God, it was terrible.
And speaking about bingo, Lenny played an active role in the bingo program in calling the numbers, and he should be recognized for that, as well as the role he played in administering the Family Park campaign and stuff like that. And he was part of our change order committee, approving all the changes that we had to do to building our projects. Lenny was right there, involved in all of that.
Lenny was a good guy. He was a hard worker.
Lenny and I for a long time were just really good friends, maybe best friends. And he was, as an aside, he and Alan Neufeld was past president, and Mickey Dykesler was a past president. Had a pinochle game every Wednesday night for many, many, many years. And Lenny was, I hate to say was, because I think he's, in many ways, what he did is still functional and Lenny did a lot of things in the community besides the JCC. He was very active for a long, long time with the B'nai B'rith Apartments, and got the board of B'nai B'rith when he was president of the board there. To end the federal government, that's a Section 8 202 project that had its mortgage was through the federal government. And the federal government, in its infinite non-wisdom, as far as I'm concerned, allowed projects like that to refinance at much lower interest rates. And he pushed us to doing it. And that allowed the B'nai B'rith to have a spinoff of a lot of dollars, because when it refinanced, the mortgage was less and the interest payments were less. And it was Lenny's foresight and that got them to do it. He was very active also for many years in the Agudat Achim, Congregation Agudat Achim, as well as some other general agencies in the community and efforts in the community. And we'll all miss him a lot. So you also asked me, Andy, about, the late 90s project, which led to the major expansion of the center, the $3.5 million campaign that got us there. I don't know. I think Eric and Neil may have more on this than I do, but I think a lot of it had the fact that our building was old. It was tired. Our fitness facility was almost non-existent.
One tiny room with a universal gym.
With a universal gym, right. And at one time, remember, it had the belt that you put around your waist, and you just had to put it on. It would go boom, 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 and the fat would just come off, they said. Yeah, right.
So So we had to do that because we had to compete with the gyms in the area that were opening up. It was Gold's Gym at the time, and it was Best Fitness that was opening up. And we said, hey guys, if we're going to bring people in, we need to have a gym that's going to bring people in and keep people there. Also, we had problems with the roof, and the building was getting old. And when you walked in those big doors, they were hard to open up, and there was no place really to walk in. There wasn't really an entranceway, a proper
Security was an
entranceway.
issue. Yeah.
Security was a big issue. We had leaks, and the building was very tired, and we had to get with the modern way of doing things, and we all came to the conclusion we needed to redo the building, and we did a great job.
Adding nursery school wing, childcare, meet the needs of the community.
Downstairs, yeah.
Yeah, that allowed us to do infant and toddler, which we didn't have until then.
Yep.
And to grow the program.
Yeah, I think
Air
you mentioned
conditioning.
mentioned a couple of times that the after school component. I just to throw this out to the panelists, maybe Rachel, having that after school component that also has the religious component to it. What does that what does that mean? You think? I mean, we I am not Jewish, but I learned the prayers, and it became I met lots of different people that I wouldn't necessarily have met potentially otherwise. But having that after school program, I think was the linchpin, because my parents' house was right around the corner. That was an easy spot for them to drop off, pick up, and so I mean that's really why they became members. And I think obviously we utilize it for our kids because it's convenient for us, but also is a high quality program.
Before I speak to the Jewish aspect, I just want to tell a very quick story about the B'nai B'rith. When I was the ASAP director, I overheard a child and his mother having a conversation about what the building was. And he said, "Mom, what is that?" And she says, "It's a house for old Jewish people." And he goes, "Oh, is that where Rachel lives?" And that's still something I remember to this day, and of course hysterical.
Right.
But as the ASAP director for years, it was ironic that there was very few Jewish children, and as we know, still are actual Jewish kids participating in the programs. But the best part about it was doing celebrating Shabbat each week and observing the Jewish holidays, the interaction that the kids had, and what they remembered each year and what they look forward to doing. For whether it was Yom Kippur and they were washing away their sins for the year, and how they remembered doing it each year, and how they recall what the holidays were for, and asking what do we do this, and why are we celebrating, and the hands would go up, and the kids were excited and they look forward to it. Or the parents commenting that we made yarmulkes and their son was still wearing it 3 weeks later, and how they were excited for it and look forward to coming to the programs. So I think that while it was, a very select, like I said, group of kids that were actually Jewish that went, it was the convenience, of course, for the Niskuna families, but it was also the reputation of the program, and how parents knew that they were, what they were paying for, they were getting their money's worth for it, and that their kids are going to be taken care of. And it was a group of people that really were trying to make a difference and raise these kids to be mitzvah makers, so to speak. So
I would add just quickly on the side, Alex talked about the Kids Time program and just the growth of the numbers, that there's now on any given day, there's somewhere 310 to 320 children going to a JCC after school program after school, whether that's at one of the 5 Kids Time programs or here at ASAP after school. So when you take that on a percentage basis, it's something like 15-16% of the Niskuna elementary school population. So 1 every 5, 1 every 6 kids in Niskayuna Elementary School is going to a JCC after school program every day.
I'd like to add, for my family, especially the things that were super exciting and important to our kids, because we are raising them Jewish, was the Shabbat box that came home. And I know that Ellen Carpenter has mentioned this too, is that so many Jewish families were sort of inspired to celebrate Shabbat where they might not have, because the kids love their Shabbat boxes. And then there was the trip to Israel. And I think what we will never really appreciate, what is incredibly hard to quantify, is the effect that exposure to Jewish traditions has had on the acceptance of Jews in our school district, and the fact that we've never had to fight to get Yom Kippur or Rosh Hashanah on the calendar of days off in our public schools, because people know what it is, unlike in Clifton Park, say. And I think it has made a big difference to my children as they've moved throughout the school age years, to know and remember their friends from preschool who all had those same experiences, like being able to wear their Halloween costume again on Purim. You know, it's just a lot of shared experiences that a lot of kids around town share.
That's, I think, very well put. I was going to actually ask you, Michelle, coming to the area, how important was it? But you answered that question. We're getting, we've kind of moved through our program. I just wanted to see and open it up and see, did anybody, I know we have a great group. I want to, thank the panelists for joining us, but also for everyone else. Does anyone else or anybody have a question for one of our panelists, or a question that they'd like to ask our group?
What's she doing?
I don't know. Ellen, is your hand up?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I remember especially our younger son was on the swim team. Allison Arbeck was the swim coach at that point. And it was really a wonderful experience for him. And I spent a lot of time back up and attending the swim meets. Is that still active? This was in the 90s that he was like 10, 11, 12 at that point.
I can add that there's still a Blue Wave swim team that has both a winter season and a summer season. And right now, even with the challenges in the world and COVID, we still have about 45 members on the swim team this year. So still alive and doing really well.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to again thank our panelists, but maybe give everybody kind of once more, one more thing to say. I mean, we're kind of wrapping this up with our third series, a 3-part series of kind of the 100 years that we've been celebrating this year, from 1921 to 2021. Does anybody have any predictions for the next 100 years? I mean, this was a large chunk of time, and obviously back in 1989, I don't think anyone probably could have envisioned all the, all the different things, at the center, the playgrounds, the new playgrounds on the side of the building, and the center, and the tennis courts, and the pool. And I don't know if anybody wants to just kind of sum up their thoughts from that decade. Go ahead, Ellen.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, for a number of years, I've been taking ceramics at the JCC with Chris Singer. And it was a wonderful experience for me. I really, really enjoyed it, and made all kinds of things, and learned how to use the wheel. And we had quite a group getting there. We'd have 5 or 6 people. We haven't done it for the last 2 years. So I am hoping at some point that we can reopen the ceramic studio. I'd love to get back to it. So that's my hope.
I would just like I'd just like to comment, one of people sitting in on this evening is Don Strocker. And Don was part of Strocker, Roth, Gilmore, SRG Architects, who were the architects when we did the addition to the JCC. And Don has been very active also in the B'nai B'rith Apartments. Been on the board for many years. And Judy, I remember finding Judy. Remember that, Judy?
Was she lost?
She was. She's trying to find her way to Schenectady.
I
Well, if
will
we're
say-
looking for a new project for the outdoor park, I would like to put in a request for a splash pad. So that's something that I'm looking forward to the future, hoping that we have something new maybe outside there.
You just joined the committee, Rachel. Congratulations.
Oh, sign me up.
Okay.
So
I'd like to-
To adults.
I just want to make I just want to make a fast comment. The center has come a long way over the past years, and I am sure that it is going to be very successful, and they're going to do a fantastic job going forward. They have a lot of great people on the board, and a lot of great people at the center, and they're going to be very successful. They're going to be good.
I have two things to say. One is Kathy Levy's on the Zoom, and she was really instrumental in looking at the entire campus and getting a full campus plan. And Sonia Rubenstein was very vocal about utilizing all that acreage, especially for education, for things like trees and maybe a path, or being able to use it as a snowshoeing in the winter and stuff like that. So I think there's so much that people always have ideas to use the full campus in other ways. I think that's great. And the Life and Legacy program was kicked off a bunch of years back, and that is growing and will certainly seed the future. I think that commitment people make to make a lifetime gift of helping fund programs in the future and sustain the center is a huge, it's just a huge piece of the puzzle. When we were dealing with budgeting issues, having that nest egg, whether to borrow against or to use and draw from for operations, was really meaningful and sustained us for a couple of years that were tight.
I will say, and Ellen, Judy did put in the chat, I don't know if you saw it, that the ceramics classes will be reopening again soon. So just wanted to, I didn't know. But I think, I think most importantly, and there's a lot of familiar faces, and Michelle is right to point out Kathy there in the chat as well, or in the discussion here. I think, maybe the most important thing obviously is the personal connections. I mean, so many familiar faces here. I think that kind of basically what makes it such a special place. Obviously the programs and the facilities, but really the people is what makes it the special place that it is and continues to be. And again, it's great to see so many familiar faces and hear kind of everybody's thoughts through this portion of the 100 years. And hopefully things continue on for many, many more years to come.
Thank you for doing this, Andrew.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew.
Well, I want to thank the entire 100-year committee, but most especially Andy Katz and Aviva Halenstein, who we didn't hear from Aviva. I don't know if she has any thoughts on this time frame, 1989 to present.
I'm good. Thanks.
Also a very big contributor and current member of the board of directors. We appreciate everybody's time. this was a great, we had great panelists and great people participating as well and joining us. And again, we were recording this, so feel free to share the information with other people who were maybe not able to attend, that they can watch and get some of this insight from this time frame when so much happened on the campus of the JCC.
We have a 100th anniversary webpage on our website, and we'll have the link to this event on the webpage in the next few days.
Oh, I can't.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
So with that, I appreciate everybody's time, and I guess we'll wrap it up.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank
everyone,
you.
for coming.
you, Andrew.
everyone. That was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.